we have a situation of an artist that was called out on Threads because, on one hand, a lot of people feel like this person is tracing AI and hiding it in their process, and there is a large chunk of people that believe the person who called them out is unfairly harassing the artist. So let's delve into the situation, and of course, please don't send hate to any parties involved. So this was posted on Threads, and it reads, "I am so effing sick of all these fake artists popping up on my feed." So it is an artist named Montana, and this is the speed paint that is attached. It's a TikTok video posted by this artist on their page in the end of April. And already looking at this, I am already a bit suspicious when you look at the speed paint. I'm going to add a lot of disclaimers, and if you watch a lot of my videos, you might be tired of it, but just note I have to add it because there's new watchers, right? Every artist has their own art process, and just because their art process doesn't look like yours doesn't mean it automatically means it's AI generated. We need to look at a lot of other context clues like when this artist started posting, because a big one for AI generated stuff is the artist starts having work that looks suspiciously AI-esque starting around 2022 and after. This artist has a very interesting process of painting where they do what I kind of like to call the paint by numbers technique, where they put down really small batches of color that are all slightly different, and then they blend everything together. You see that here with how they are coloring the face in. And to me, this is very interesting to look at because there are very few artists that actually work this way. I'm not saying it's impossible to paint like this. There are legitimate artists that do paint like this. I mean, pulling up one example, this is an artist called Katie on TikTok where they do have an art process that looks something like this. A lot of people call this artist AI, but this artist also has traditional paintings where they paint in literally the exact same technique at the exact same skill level they show their digital pieces to be done in. It's another portrait just like what they do digitally. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is that there legitimately are artists that paint like this. So this on its own is not its own red flag. But to add, it is not the most common way you will find artists painting. It's quite rare to see people paint like this. The other thing this artist does that makes me a bit suspicious of their process is the fact that they immediately know where everything goes. You see them draw out a basic blocky red sketch, and we see like a circular sketch kind of that's supposed to indicate the cranium. But yeah, you see they do this basic sketch. They have a basic framing of the border and the mountains in the background, and then they go into the line art. And in the line art, they also immediately know where everything belongs. Again, are there artists that do draw like this? They do a super rough sketch and go straight into the line art? Yes, it's also very rare. Typically, artists will have to resize things, adjust things. They'll do a more refined sketch before getting into the line art. But as you can see, this artist immediately starts lining all the eyes, all the hair strands. The eyes are even on the first go. That to me is honestly the most surprising part because every time I draw like this, one eye is always a little crooked and I got, oh, let me like cut that out and squish it down a little bit. Look at the little cross-eyed. Every brushstroke, they immediately know where it needs to go. Even complex elements that artists don't often draw, like the bow, if you're a portrait artist who draw a lot of portraits, maybe you really have this like 3/4 profile down on lock. Okay, but you probably don't draw bows that often, right? Like all of these are basically immediately perfect. You know exactly where everything goes. Every single tree was already sketched in perfectly. And then the mountains. So we get to the border, they start drawing the border, etc. They do the detailing for the brush, they do the detailing for the bow. And what is also interesting to me is like the mountains and the way they draw the mountains. Again, everything, they immediately know where the colors need to go out the gate and it's automatically perfect. Like to me, what this is looking like is it looks like you are referencing an outside image or a hidden layer in Procreate. You're color selecting off the hidden layer and then coloring a little bit, color selecting again off the hidden layer, and then coloring a little bit more. This is what I always jokingly like to call the paint by numbers method. But yeah, they continue to do that for the tree and they do that again for the face. One thing that I find interesting as well is they do this. They cut out the sketch like this for the body, and then they paint over the sketch like that. It is also really uncommon, and you rarely see artists paint like this. Again, maybe there are artists where this is their art process, but what are the odds that this artist has a lot of characteristics that are very uncommon in artists? This type of oil painting method, which is, again, there are artists who do that, right? But also they somehow immediately know where every sketch, every line art line needs to go with no reworking, no reshaping. Mountains immediately correct. And they also draw the character perfectly blended into the environment out the gate. Colors don't need to be adjusted at all. Well, they do throw this layer on at the end, but you know what I mean? Like also being able to draw environmental lighting perfectly on the first go really, really hard to see that. And a lot of people in the comments are 50-50. There are a lot of people in the comments who are like, yeah, this is super obviously AI. Like, how can people fall for this? And there's other people who are really defending the artist. This person writes, as an author who commissions Montana, I gotta say how frustrating this witch hunt is. We go over the character information before she even starts, she sent me sketches and updates, and she has made changes for me, which means erasing and redoing, and have added details that are very specific to my characters. I have no doubt in her ability. She has also live streamed her art on TikTok, especially some of my characters. It's such BS to accuse somebody when she clearly puts in the work. And I mean, personally, I want to believe that, right? I want to believe this person is legitimate. And of course, if you work with this artist before, you're going to be more inclined to try to defend them. So I definitely see where they're coming from. But a lot of people are still not quite buying it, saying things like, hey, I'm going to be honest. I understand this is frustrating, but their art process looks odd. Again, the way this artist paints, it's common amongst oil painters, like the artist that I showed you, to paint like this. You don't see people who only work in digital paint like this. You almost never. It's just harder to do. It's much more common in oil because you have no choice. You're on a canvas. Other people are saying the way her face is immediately rendered. And another person adds, well, here's the artist. They're painting in the exact same method using physical tools. I think you guys are dogpiling for no reason. We have this video where they're testing the Shuttle Art inking pens, and then they're kind of inking together an image, and you can see this is their final product. Yes, looking at this video, this person can draw. This person obviously has hands and is able to, take colored utensils and put together a cute little drawing. But I would argue this does not prove anything, because this is of a much different skill level than the original drawing we showed, right? And a lot of skills aren't like one-to-one transferable. Obviously, when you're testing out new materials, you're not going to be great with the new tools because they're brand new. You've never used them before. You're probably going to draw something simpler, like some cactus plants, etc. But even looking at this, right, the anatomy is a little bit off. The shape of the top of the pot is not the same as the bottom. The bottom is very, very flat. It looks very 2D. The top is very like dynamic with a 3D angle. So even the anatomy here is a little bit off. Again, super chill if you draw this way. This is like no shade, no tea. I think it looks cute. I like the way they rendered this. But the point that I'm trying to make is that this does not prove that they painted this, because this is of a much more higher skill level. Again, artists are completely allowed to do cute little silly drawings just for fun with no stress about anatomy, whatever. The point that I was trying to make is that it just doesn't prove it. And another way we can tell is by looking at the artist's page and looking at other videos they have, because obviously all we saw was one so far, right? And here's another video they have, and this is of them painting Chapel Roan. And they show their drawing process. Essentially, this is the final image. I like the little horses, I like the little details added behind the head, but this is of them painting. And so this video was on April 1st, 2025. Maybe it's an older video, I don't know, right? But here we can see kind of where their skill level is at in 2025 of April. Here we have another drawing. Like, this person clearly can draw, right? We're not debating that. They have that ability. But here we have a kind of another example. It is a rougher sketch, so it is in a little bit of a different style. And then this is their drawing 1 month later. Again, artists are allowed to improve at whatever speed they want. There are some artists that lock the F in and improve super, super, super quickly. And there's some artists that take a little bit of a longer time to improve. That is completely fine. But this level of skill jump in 1 month is almost unheard of. To go from like, a really cute painterly style image of Chapel Roan to this realistic portrait of a woman with backlighting, with flawlessly rendered skin. The color choice is 100% on point. I have a hard time believing that in only 1 month. And here we have another speed paint, also in the first week of May. Well, it's like May 9th, right? Where you can see the way they draw. It's a lot of color selecting, placing it onto a canvas exactly where that is, blending everything together. And I have a feeling they're probably color selecting from an image like that is a hidden layer in Procreate or something that we can't see. Because to get all the colors 1000% accurate here like this, like the odds are so low. Again, unless you have a historical background in painting like this. Again, if you're an oil painter, you have a history of oil painting. Oil painters do this. That's just what they do, right? You don't really see people who basically only work in digital mediums paint like this. It's just a lot harder. And again, they got all the lighting, all the environmental colors correct on the first go. Because here, look, again, when they paint the eyes in, they use this like teal color for the whites of the eyes. And that's a really interesting choice for eye color on first go. Like, that's typically not a color you would choose on your own. And then bam, we have the finished product, right? Did they draw other elements of it themselves, like the hair strands and stuff like that? Yeah, I believe that. But I do think there's like a layer somewhere that's being selected from. So the user who originally called them out went on Threads and made an extra post writing, "I want to clarify my stance about verdant palette after the post I made a few days ago. Though it's clear this person is rendering their pieces, I am still suspicious of her using AI in her process, at least tracing over AI images. She claims to not use AI to create her art and it's not a part of her process in any way," end quote, in her response post. "I think because she's offering commissions, her use of AI as a reference should be disclosed. Please don't harass this person or anyone involved. I want to clarify what I'm showing you right now is an old piece posted more than a year ago, April 1st, 2025. I also include the original video without the overlay. The generated image used as a reference existed at least since 2024. Yeah, that's not a good look. So here we have the original sketch. And this is what I mean by the sketching process is so weird. Because when you take a look, if you look at the sketch, okay, we have blocked out some of the body, we blocked out where some of the hair should go, and then we have blocked out some of the armor. This is a really loose sketch. I feel like typically if you're gonna go line over this, you would need to refine it a little bit more before lining it. They go straight into the line art, and again, everything is perfect. The nose curve, perfect, lips perfect, the eye placement. This is a trickier angle because you can, this side profile is a bit hard to draw. They know exactly where everything goes, including fine detail on the shoulder pads for the armor. And one thing that's always to me interesting when it comes to these types of processes when somebody, is like allegedly tracing AI images, right? Is that they kind of start drawing with no really rhyme or reason. Like they're drawing the hair, but they're starting to draw the hair from like the middle of the blob of the long hair in the back, as you can see with like strands appearing here. Again, some artists do this, so this on its own, right? It's just one little thing. Maybe it's an artist quirk. You don't often see artists start drawing from the middle of the blob of the hair. Like typically you start from the top or you start from some place that connects to something. The ear, starting from the ear, okay, that could make sense, right? But the middle of this chunk of flowing hair, I find that also odd. But the most odd part of all is just how rough the sketch is versus how clean and perfect the line art is. Because yeah, now we have the line art, right? And then they're sketching and shading it with pencil detailing for the rest of the body. And again, everything is perfect from the first go. Yeah, this is their final product, right? But it turns out they were tracing over an AI generated image. This is the image they were tracing over. This one is most definitely AI generated. This is not even a braid. This is like thorns stuck in the head, hair looping back and forth on each other, details that don't add up. What is this thing melting into the hand and this arm is missing? If you watch this video where they overlaid a faint image of that AI image on top of what this person is drawing, you can now see why all of the confident line art makes sense, because they're tracing over this AI image that overlaps literally 1-to-1. This is really, really damning. And in my personal opinion, this is my theory as to how this artist draws, in that they have a hidden layer in Procreate they're tracing over and color selecting. So is each brushstroke placed on the canvas theirs? Yes, but this is just a more convoluted way to trace and utilize AI imagery in the art process. And after seeing this, people are completely in agreement with the person who made this post, writing, "The sketching is, in my opinion, very unrealistic. I don't need to see that they trace because there's no erasing, no correcting, no mistakes, nothing. It's not even a sketch because a sketch is supposed to be done to figure out how you want the drawing to look and to put down guidelines. Even the face guidelines feels off. It's basically the size of somebody tracing who doesn't even know how to draw at this level." And yeah, in my opinion, it's even more obvious in some of their later speed paints. They have this one of this magical character where they show the speed paints. And again, we have super basic sketch. Poof, they immediately know where all of the lines go, immediately draws an extremely complex background. And then look at how they draw the background. This is a really odd process to draw the background as well. They have the sketch of the character completely blocked out in gray, and they do the background behind the character. They don't just toggle the character off, almost as if they're working entirely on one layer. But again, did you see how they drew the background? They know exactly where everything goes, all the environmental colors immediately placed correctly, and then they do the paint by numbers thing for the rest of the face. And that is essentially how they go and draw this entire character. And this was a commission too, which just, again, don't send hate to the author. I don't think the author knows at all, right? But quite certain that this is also tracing over an AI generated image. Well, it's another day, and we have an update to this situation. And we don't talk about the hair. This is a mess. So the original OP writes, Verdant Palette, shameless liar trying to scam authors. So much for claiming not to use AI in her process after my first call out. I found new proof of her recent works being traced and color picked over AI and other artists' work. It's clearly a pattern. So this was a post they made to their TikTok page explaining everything, where Verdant writes, it came to light that I had traced artwork in the past and I want to address it directly. The answer is yes. I did. It was years ago when I was still learning digital art, and I should never have posted it as original work. When it resurfaced, it was actually through a re-upload of an older video that I honestly forgot was still on my account. That doesn't excuse it, and I take responsibility for that mistake. Because of this, I have removed the trace content from my account. What I do want to make clear is that my commission work and the artwork I have created for clients was drawn by me. I have spent countless hours creating those pieces, including the book covers and commission artwork I have delivered over the last year or so. I am embarrassed that this happened, and I understand why people are disappointed. The people I feel most apologetic towards are my past and current clients because they place their trust in me. All I can do now is be honest, acknowledge the mistake, and continue taking responsibility for it. I'm gonna take some time and think about my next steps. You want to do reference studies to learn to progress your artwork. You want to trace to progress your artwork. Artists do that all the time, but don't post it and claim it as your own work because it legitimately isn't. But beyond this kind of feels like downplaying the situation a little bit because it's a little more than what was implied as just one traced art piece that was on their page that was a little oopsie. Because we have some examples. The OP adds these examples. Here we have a side-by-side of the AI reference versus their artwork. Here we have an original art piece by an artist named Meryl Varolian and Verdant's work. Here we have another side-by-side. This is an AI reference and this is their work. Here we have an AI reference, their work, and then the side-by-side. You get the point. OP adds, by the way, this is her pricing and these are her time lapses overlaid with the reference photos, videos that were published between November 2025 and January 2026. Not the old pieces she talks about in her fake apology. The bust shoulder up is $200 USD, a half body is $350, and a full body is $500 for traced images. And here we have a speed paint where they overlaid their speed paint with the traced image. And as you can see, this is what I mean by the color picking method, because it literally looks like they're selecting off of the image below, and you can see it in the rendering process. Here we have another example. Now, again, like the disclaimer that I want to add, there are traditional artists who paint like this. Oil painters will paint like this so that they will have an art process that looks something like this. Very likely, it's not going to exactly one-to-one overlap the image below as if they're tracing an image on Procreate, because, you know, they're not doing that. Like, these are all so damning. And the commenters are feeling something. A user writes, there was an obvious difference between the pieces she drew herself, much older uploads, and her more recent ones, which were clearly AI paintovers. It's sad. She could have just continued to try to improve as an artist. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but it was clear that she was painting over AI when her style suddenly morphed into that standard AI semi-realism, and she appeared to improve drastically overnight, all while coloring in pointillism with absolutely zero errors. And another user says, the biggest red flag for me was the fact that she uses an almost pointillism style for adding her color and then she blurs everything. Not mix, straight up blur. A person who has her supposed skill level of drawing, composition, or color theory should be able to understand to not overblend and blur. And the end result, well, now on their TikTok page, they've closed their commissions and removed all of their videos. And some people in the comments were like, hey, a lot of y'all owe OP an apology, because people were on the artist side at first, being like, oh, you're just bullying this poor artist. And again, of course, we want to defend artists, and no fault for people giving benefit of the doubt to an artist that they really want to defend, you know, because we want to support artists in this day and age. But sometimes things are a little painfully obvious, and this person was hitting a lot of the massive red flags that a lot of these AI scammers tend to show. Again, don't send hate, don't bully any parties, but what are your thoughts on this entire situation? Because this is just one of many people who try to scam with an art process like this. And you know the wildest part? We have an honorable mention. There's a post by this user. No, we found out that you're actually tracing AI, and the amount of AI on all your socials is crazy work. The artist posted this 27 hours in, and it shows part of their drawing process, and they're drawing in Procreate, and this is their art piece, their final product. Wow, you know, they have books, they have the frame, all of this. They posted this like a week earlier. That's just the same drawing you just traced over. I don't know what to tell you. You didn't draw that yourself. Again, the whole point, this is not to send hate to anybody. This is just to, again, bring awareness and This person less so. They were trying to claim they drew it themselves. Obviously, they didn't. Lying on the internet, that's what everyone does, right? The previous person we talked about is scamming because they're offering commissions and people are buying the commissions, likely under the guise thinking that it's handmade work when it's really somebody just tracing over and color selecting an AI image that's hidden in a hidden layer in Procreate. So don't send hate to any parties involved. But if you are looking to commission artists, again, do your due diligence, do some research, and look into that artist. If their art process looks like it's hitting a lot of the markers that I talked about in this video, maybe hit up an artist friend to get them to double check for you to see if this person is legit or not. Is this a story where the artist has been using AI and hiding it this entire time, or is the inconsistencies that people see due to an upscaler? So let's delve into the situation. And a little warning, the artist's artwork is a little spicy. And again, don't send hate to any parties involved. Essentially, this artist posted a photo of 4 drawings of feet of different gacha game characters. And a lot of people are hyping it up. It's in a very, very like semi-realism anime style, one that is really popular with the Twitter artists and also one that's really popular with like AI scammers. So a lot of people were harping on the quality, being like, wow, this looks so good. You draw so amazing. This post went viral. It's at 1 million views. And then there are a bunch of little comments that cropped up in the comment section being like, yo, so what AI generator do you use? What AI do you use? Like, blah, 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 blah. This art looks very suspicious. And then people were taking a closer look at this artist's artwork and looking at points of the artwork that look very odd. So a user writes, I don't mind the AI, but hey, artist, stop posting work in progresses. You're not fooling anyone. So they look through some images of their artwork and kind of highlight aspects of it. Here we have a character that's laying down. They're doing what looks like the splits, I think, and they're wearing a brown top with kind of longer sleeves, but there is like a draping portion of the fabric that extends beyond where either sleeve would exist, which I agree is odd. The big thing when it comes to like, is this AI, is it not? I always say this in my videos, right? Just in case you haven't seen it before. But one, you want to look at the full picture because if it's a 1 or 2 things, it could just be human error. Humans make mistakes. Sometimes humans draw 6 fingers on one hand. It accidentally happens. If you make 1,000 art pieces, one of them you might accidentally muck up. Right? There's forgiveness for that. But you really have to ask yourself, like, would a human draw this? 2, are there AI looking mistakes? And does it happen very frequently throughout multiple of their art pieces or a high percentage of their art pieces? 3, what's their posting frequency? If they're posting like every single day fully rendered images, well, do they have a backlog to make this make sense? Is that adding up? And a lot of other things. So this is a really interesting choice. There are some other interesting elements with this artist's artwork, and we'll see this throughout the artwork, but they have a tendency to draw multiple eyelids on only one eye, and that is something that you will see with a lot of like AI images. This eye has 1, 2, 3 eyelids, and the left eye has 1. Again, like you have to ask yourself, would a human do that? Yes, there are people with 3 eyelids on one eye. Sometimes if I rub one eye too hard, that happens, but you don't often see artists drawing that. Here we have another piece, 2 characters kind of like making a heart with their hands, except this hand, the pink fingernail has like another long line extending behind that. It's almost as if she has like a massive pink French tip on only one finger. Another thing that you kind of look at is consistency within the character design, especially because this artist tends to draw characters from popular IPs like anime, gacha games, etc. This is, I believe, Mern from Dress Up Darling, I think. But regardless, 2 earrings, right? The earring on the left is not the same as the earring on the right. She has a hoop in the right ear and a stud in the left ear. Not saying you can have asymmetrical earrings because people do that. Kind of just interesting. Another one is, again, consistency of how things are drawn, especially in the same piece. 2 characters, 2 ears, both drawn very differently in the exact same art piece. Just again, interesting. This one is pretty damning. We have this character as she's holding kind of like 2 hands together, like one hand on the back of the other hand. The index finger just disappears. Her index finger is like missing after the first knuckle. So the tip of the finger, the other knuckle, all gone. Very interesting. And then again with the ear, because this ear is drawn very differently than the other 2 ears we saw in the previous piece. And like there's other elements of the artwork I'm not going to mention because it's not relevant, right? But like here, there's a dot on the sleeve. That could just be human error. You accidentally made a brush stroke and it left there. So that's like a human error that you could easily explain away. Other oddities, like the missing finger, weird. This piece specifically is quite egregious because if you look at this hand here, there are way too many fingers on the other hand. Because if you have one hand on top of the other hand, right, your thumb is a really short finger. It won't be visible here. But if you look, you can see in the hand pose, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers. There should only be 4 visible from this angle, right? If I'm trying to like recreate this hand pose here. You cannot see the thumb from that angle. You just can't. You would have to do some sort of like really arbitrary movement with the hand to see the thumb, and that would cause all of the top knuckles to then become visible. This just doesn't make sense. So in the same piece, we have two different finger ears, one ear on each hand. And I'm gonna be honest, you're telling me an artist of this caliber, with this level of rendering, this level of anatomy, etc., can't get the fingers correctly on both hands of the same piece? Again, one-time mistakes do happen, but both hands. Not to mention these two fingers, the anatomy, it's just very off. Like the angle compared to these other three. And then if you look at this piece, there's even more oddities with the coloring, because the clothing, she's wearing this like blue top and there's this like baby blue coloring happening. But inside the neck area, it's also baby blue, even though that's supposed to be the skin. So maybe the artist accidentally colored outside of the line? Maybe? We have some more blue here. Like, it's just a lot of AI-looking errors all on the exact same piece. Like, what are the odds you made this many, specifically AI-looking mistakes on one piece? Missing fingers, 6 fingers on one hand, and the blue extending beyond the top. Not to mention the top line, it disappears behind the hair, and then it reappears, but like moved 3 millimeters over beneath it. This piece looks quite AI-assisted, if you will. And it continues. This user adds, I was wondering how somebody got this good at drawing, but the more I looked at their account, and they highlight even more oddities within the art pieces. Take a look at the eyelids again. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 eyelids on the right eye and 2 on the left. You just don't really see artists doing that. Another one at the earrings with details that don't match up, left earring versus right earring. This is very odd. And again, these are not like human errors, because you have to think again, would a human draw the right earpiece completely differently from the left earpiece? They look very similar, but they're not the same. Another commenter adds that any Yae Miko fan, that's the character, would note that Yae Miko only has 2 diamond piercings per ear. So they note that there are 4 on the left ear and 3 on the right ear, which that's again odd. This is the other thing I was talking about in terms of character consistency, because if you are drawing fan art of characters, you would look up a reference photo of the character, but to consistently get really odd things incorrect about the character design is something you would see with AI generated imagery and not something that an artist hand draws. Again, I'm not saying you can't make a mistake here or there, but like every single piece has so many errors. Another one where there's odd details on this bow. So this one is a character called Columbina from Genshin as well. And then here again, we have lace, the lace crisscrossing in her hair, turning into a hair strand. Another lace crisscross turning into a hair strand. And a final thing to add is her mask. This is what Columbina's mask looks like. It's a very like crisscrossy diamond looking design. What is happening here? Especially over on the left eye. The right eye, that makes sense. The left eye, what in the garbled mess is happening here? Again, when you ask yourself, would a human draw it like this? Would they draw it to make it look like it's completely overlapping each other in some aspects and then broken in other chunks? The diamonds don't even connect on this side. But they do on the other side, which is odd because it shows the artist can do it. Weird. A small other detail, but one thing I do notice with the like AI anime drawings is that they will have like sweat dripping from everywhere. There's like droplets dripping out of the hair strand, which is interesting. Some more pieces. Again, we have another hand with a random finger appearing that could possibly be the thumb. But again, like the angle of getting your thumb finger there, it's just awkward. More garbled mess on the hair strands happening over here on the shoulder. And then another character where there's a bunch of diamonds on the shoulder pad, except each diamond looks slightly different from the next one, but not in a way that makes sense. And here we have another hand. What is happening to the pinky finger? There's a pinky and there's webbing between the pinky and the finger, which is really odd. There's more. If you look through their artwork, there's a lot, again, of inconsistencies. This character is wearing Yor's earrings, Yor costume from Spy X Family. The 2 earrings are not the same. Yor's earrings do match left and right. Here we have another piece. This is Marin from Dress Up Darling, and she's got the elf ears. But look at the ear between the face and this side bang piece. What exactly is happening here? And there's like 1 earring, but only on this ear. Again, a human just wouldn't draw this. It just does not add up. It doesn't make sense. Another one, we have this piece. And if you look at the hands, maybe it's human error, but we've got a pinky that's half the length of the rest of the fingers. And again, you could argue human error from the angle. It's kind of like a hard angle to draw with the fingers here, maybe. This person is pretty good at anatomy from what it looks like. So it's just a bit interesting to see. But also what's also interesting is that once again, the design is wrong. So here, I believe this is Ganyu from Genshin Impact, and they're wearing the outfit of Uraraka from My Hero Academia. Except the outfit is wrong. They have the headpiece on. And according to the Pure Good Heroes fandom, the first hero costume, she has that headpiece, but there's also like a face screen to it. And in the second costume, it becomes that sort of headband looking thing, which is what we see here. Except the headband like this earpiece when she wears it, there is no pink stripe on the bottom here. There's only pink appearing above the headpiece here. And this is her second hero costume, where as you can see, there is like kind of a belt around her waist, but does not connect in the middle. But in this costume, she actually has a belt that does connect in the middle, and that's an element from her first hero costume, where again, the headpiece does have a screen, but it doesn't have that pink stripe either. So it's again just really interesting because they draw so much art of fandoms and like characters from pieces of IP and media, but somehow all of their outfits are almost there, but also wrong. Because I feel like if you're referencing an outfit that Yura Araka would wear, you would either choose like the first costume or the second costume. Maybe the artist made a choice to mix and match, but even then they also got it wrong again. So anyways, I could keep going, but there are a lot of inconsistencies in the artist's work, and a lot of people in the comment section were pointing it out as well. But for OP, who made that call out post, a lot of people were actually not agreeing with OP, being like, there's not enough accusations, there's not enough points, you're making baseless accusations at a poor artist and drawing a lot of attention to them for no reason. Why don't you DM them? In which OP was like, I can't DM them, you have to be verified to actually message this artist. You know, other people are like, hey, there are tiny mistakes, it's pretty hard to notice, I'm very anti-AI, but there's not enough evidence for this artist specifically. And then another person in the comments drops a photo of Columbina's mask. The commenter was like, oh, never mind, I take it back, that is actually really messed up. What's also interesting is this artist has posted a couple work in progresses. So this is a work in progress they posted February 17th. And by the way, this artist has only been posting on Twitter since February. And they stated publicly on their Twitter that, yeah, you know, they have been drawing for a while, but they only started posting on Twitter starting February after being convinced by some friends. This is another work in progress that they've posted. This is another one where they switched over to Clip Studio Paint. And this is the final work in progress that they've posted, where here you can see there are a lot of layers that are open. So I mean, there are work in progresses, which with a lot of those AI accounts, you know, they don't have any. So having some work in progresses can be a situation where it clears your name because it's like, okay, well, here are some examples of you drawing, possibly, right? But other people in the comments were saying like, hey, you know, this doesn't necessarily prove that you drew it yourself. A lot of people can take an AI generated image and reverse engineer it to go and get a sketch from that to try to make it look like you drew it when you didn't. So people were saying, oh, can you stream your art, blah, 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 blah. And now what does the artist have to say about all of this? Because all of a sudden, a lot of people are pointing fingers at them and accusing their work of being AI generated. So the artist says, there's no tricks. I'm pretty open about my previous use of tiled upscalers that use AI, but I've moved on from that for a bit now because of the detail discrepancies and discourse it causes. As for frequency, I joined Twitter in February. I didn't start drawing in February, but I get the initial suspicion. And the artist adds, I don't mind the conversation to be had around previous use of the upscaler. There's much I learned from having them and a lot I wish I hadn't used it for. However, I don't appreciate the picking up a pencil and spending time on something and then getting stuff like this in the mentions. Again, referring to AI accusations. Now, about the AI upscalers, this is not the first time there's a situation where an artist was accused of using AI, and they've stated, oh, but I used AI upscalers, so that's why my art looks really chopped. It's not because I used AI to generate the image, but I drew it correctly, the upscaler was why it looked messed up. First off, I don't believe that defense, honestly, for the reason that there are too many errors that don't make sense in the argument of, oh, but it was just an upscaler. Because, like, would an upscaler add 2 earrings to the left ear and 1 earring to the right ear so that there's a total of 3 extra earrings on this character? Would an upscaler completely chop off only 1 finger, only the index finger, none of the other fingers are chopped off, and add an extra finger on the other hand? Like, would an AI upscaler suddenly give your character a web pinky? I could maybe buy the excuse of like an AI upscaler adding artifacts or something, which is why it looks a little crunchy. Webbing to fingers, removing fingers, and adding extra fingers, I really don't think the AI upscaler does that. And for more context about how this artist operates, they have a fully rendered piece about every 3 days, which is really, really high frequency. Now, if you want to believe this artist, right, they do state that they've been drawing since before February, which you would have to if this is the level of quality of art that you draw at. So they could possibly be posting backlog. But then we add the extra context of the fact that they have a Patreon, specifically an NSFW Patreon, where you can subscribe to get more, you know, sus images of the artwork. So beyond just 3 posts a day, there's also more posts, you know, different variations, etc., being posted to their Patreon. So it's even more art than 3 a day. And again, with the Patreon, I'm not saying every artist ever with a Patreon means that you are generating images with AI. That's not true at all. There are plenty of legit artists with legit Patreons, but this is a common MO you see with a lot of the AI scammers. They LARP as a real artist. They post a lot of, for lack of a better word, really voluptuous anime women, and then have an NSFW Patreon, and that's what a lot of them do. The posting frequency, the Patreon, and all of the errors in their artwork alongside the claim of, oh, but like it was a generator upscaler, which is why it looks this way. I personally don't buy it. I'm curious about your thoughts though, because the artist is gung-ho about the fact that all of these errors are actually just due to the upscaler and that they're open for conversation about it. It was something they did in the past and they regret it. I'm curious about your thoughts at the end of the day. Do you think this artist is legitimately drawing all these pieces and they're being falsely accused due to the AI upscaler they used in their past garbling up their work? Or do you think it's a situation where they were generating stuff with AI and are trying to LARP as a real artist when they're not? I would say the final thing is, if the true issue is the fact that you used an AI upscaler and that is why it looks like AI chewed up and spat out your artwork, then why not just post the low-res version? You know, the original version without pre-upscaler. You must have access to it, right? I rarely do you see artists deleting every single working file the moment they post the artwork so that you can clear the air. You know, oh, here's the original version. Yeah, there's a finger here. And yeah, it didn't look like this. I'm just not buying it because this was an excuse that I've already seen before with a different artist a while ago, and it was very, very likely confirmed that that person was using AI. So this kind of sounds like it's a similar story. Here are some posts that I found that I just thought was really funny because it kind of felt like the person, the artist, or the commenter was just trying to rage bait the art community. So let's delve in, and again, don't send hate to any parties involved. So this first post, and apologies if I don't read their username right, like Juarez Baguette, they write, and it was translated from French, "A bunch of jealous people. My art is better than most of you modern weapons without any real depth. Learn art before trying to criticize an artist who truly understands the full scope of art like me." And so here they posted their commission graphic, where it ranges from a basic sketch to a full complete illustration. Their basic sketch goes for 50 euros and their full illustration goes for 200 euros. And again, I'm not making any points about the price necessarily because every artist is allowed to price their artwork at whatever pricing they think is fair to them. Just make sure you're getting paid fairly for the time that you're putting into it. The real controversy that comes in with the absolute ratio that happened with this post is the fact that if you take 2 seconds to look at the artwork, it looks really AI. And again, AI trains off of real artists, so there's of course going to be real humans with artwork that quote unquote looks AI. That's because AI stole from them. But this person's artwork features a lot of irregularities that you just simply wouldn't find in human artwork. Here we have an example of the basic sketch, in which the bangs of the hair actually cut into the ear. There is a bow that is like cropped off, I think. And then the hair also blends into the clothing. And there is one drawstring for a shirt that doesn't have a hood. So interesting. Now we have the simple color for 100 euros, where the two earrings don't match. She is cross-eyed because of where the highlights are placed in the eyes, and there are odd, crunchy detailing happening in the hair. For 150 euros, you can go and get the detailed color, where we again have hair strands that melt into the clothing, more hair strands melting into the clothing, an ear that is floating because the bang is like also melting into the ear, a hand in a pocket with two fingers coming out like this. Like, who puts their hand in a pocket like this? We can have a detailed scene for 180 euros, where there are mismatched floating string lights that are like mushed against the wall, and framed pictures that have absolute garbage in it, or a really, really chopped up plant on the desk. Or for 200 euros, you can get a complete illustration, and our character is turned into a witch, and there is bacteria in the sky. That's like the best way I could describe it. And she's losing hair. There's dandruff falling out of her hair in the bottom here. And this plant is also disintegrating, and so are these plants. This makes absolutely no sense. And the funny part too is that like in this progression, it looks like it's supposed to be the same girl from sketch all the way to complete illustration, except it's like not the same character because the hair color and texture changes frame by frame, but only just slightly, to where maybe it's the same character, but like she used a hair curler in this picture. You know what I mean? All in all, this is looking extremely AI. Oh my god. So nobody's buying it in the comment section, and some people were responding. And this person writes, "Excuse me, this isn't meant to offend you, but your prices are so high for the prompts, and the fact they're sketches or advanced drawings is at your discretion, right? So why is the margin between the highest price and the lowest price so big?" And the artist says, "Good question. Because the two are very different. Because the one for 200 euros, I put all of my cognitive capacity and all my acquired experience into that 200 euro drawing to offer excellence for my clients." Another commenter says, "I don't want to get into any trouble or anything, but wouldn't this count as stolen art? Knowing the AI takes images and art from the internet to fuse them into a single image, wouldn't that mean the illegitimate use of previous works? Even so, people can do whatever they want." And OP says, "No, it's a lot of work." Another person says, 200 euros for a product not made by you? And OP says, "It is made by me." Homie, just because you went into ChatGPT and prompted up an image doesn't mean you actually drew it yourself. So somebody else took their prompt and then redid it, I guess, in their variation with their AI drawings and was like, "Why would I pay you when in 30 seconds I can get the same thing for free?" And then OP says, "Wow, you're clearly stealing from me." And another person says, "Are you seriously charging the price of a designer handbag for a mediocre AI generated drawing? Is everything all right at home?" And OP says, "It's not mediocre." And the top comment says, "Nobody's jealous. We're just outraged that talentless people like you charge for typing prompts into a shitty AI while pretending it was done by hand. Screw off, you're literally pooping on real artists by doing that." And OP says, "No, I don't have talent, not like you." And then they got community noted. So the community note says, "The user uses AI for making commissions, thus the quote," and then there is a phrase in French that apparently translates to, "I'll draw for you," end quote. That claim is erroneous? I've actually never had to say this word out loud. Is erroneous and misleading towards potential clients that seek somebody actually drawing commissions and not just prompting their commissions. This person is clearly just rage baiting and attention seeking. They quote retweeted their post writing, "It's crazy the number of people too lazy to appreciate what they see and who confine themselves to their idea that my creations are so-called ugly just to prop up their little ego." Like, no, it's because it's AI. Ugh, AI equals ugly. Oh my god. Own up to the fact that I'm just better. LOL. That's the problem with like the rise of AI at the end of the day, because you get like the rise of people like this. I mean, everybody rage baits, you know, or not everybody, but the internet is full of rage baiters. In every community, every space, there's always going to be rage baiters and people who just have, I guess, a lot of free time, so they thrive off of pissing off other people. That's just life at the end of the day. Don't give these people attention because that's literally all they want. But I just thought it was funny because it made its rounds on Twitter and it got a lot of interactions. Next up, we have this post, and it is a screenshot of a comment that reads, "Art usually takes 2 to 3 weeks max. Anything longer than that, the person is lazy and wasting your valuable time and money. I have commissioned for art. Max it's taken me is 2 weeks. If somebody is paying you their hard-earned money, they should be valued for it. I really hope you can get your art soon. If not, we can chat. I got a few slots open. Wink." And OP writes, "Just read a comment saying that if an artwork takes longer than 2 to 3 weeks to complete, the artist is lazy." And honestly, I think this comes from a misunderstanding of what full-time commission artists actually do behind the scenes. A lot of us are not producing quick or simple art. Very often for books, we create highly detailed, fully rendered illustrations that can take 50 to 100 plus hours for a single piece. That is multiple full work weeks spent on one artwork alone. When an artist has a long queue, book out till next year, it usually doesn't mean they're lazy. It usually means many people trust them with their art at the same time, they're balancing multiple commissions daily, and they're trying to survive while working in an industry with no paid, stable salary, sick leave, and no vacations. And that freelance artists still have bills and things to pay while working on older commissions. And artists in the comments definitely completely agree. Another person says, "What an idiotic and ignorant take. I work 7 days a week, draw every day. I draw at least 7 hours a day when working on projects. I do long days, 10 hours of drawings for sure. My style is super detailed and artworks take weeks. These people need to educate themselves and shut their mouths." Whoa, this is sick. This is a side-by-side of their line art versus the final. And oh my lord, the amount of hours the line art must have taken. And not even counting the rendering, just the line art. Another person says, "My commission art takes an average of 3 to 4 weeks to finish, sometimes a bit more depending on complexity. This includes research, planning, sketches, etc. Recently, I decided to take Sundays off from drawing commissions just so I could rest and recharge. I do my best to create something my clients would love, and I do this with a day job too. Please don't call all of us lazy just because we don't finish an artwork in 2 weeks." And other people were saying that they felt suspicious about the commenter due to the fact that their profile looks AI generated, which their profile is like kind of cropped off, so it's pretty hard to tell when you see only the bottom. It's definitely twofold, right? Because it comes with a tricky situation. I completely agree that like it depends on the type of artwork that is commissioned. Just straight up calling an artist lazy for taking a specific amount of time on your work is really, really off. You're casting a wide net, and very likely you're going to be wrong. There are some instances of artists taking on way too many commissions and then dragging it on for hella long because they were being lazy, but that is like the fringe case scenario. Most artists don't work like this, because if you do work like this, most of the time you're not going to get commissions after a while, and then you're gonna lose your job, which is not what artists want. But there are so many types of art commissions that simply, if the artist were to sit down and work on it day in, day out, it will take them longer than 2 weeks to do it. VTuber models, full book commissions, right? If you're doing like a full package of covers plus the inside art for the book, plus you're doing some more detailed foiling, etc., that's gonna take you a long time because it's a very, very complex commission that's being delivered. And also, there's a lot of back and forth time too. You do the sketch, you give the sketch to the client, and you wait for the client to respond. Sometimes it takes them a little bit. You get the response, okay, now you work on the flat colors, send it back and let them approve the flat colors. You have to wait again for their response. So the overall working time for the commission will take sometimes longer than 2 weeks because you're just waiting for communication. And then, of course, a lot of artists will take on more than one commission at a time, because you end up in situations like this where if you work on only one commission at a time, or you only have one commission at a time, sometimes it can run you into a situation where you end up in a financial tricky situation. Because what if that one client backs out? Well, now this big commission you were waiting on, you were banking on this one commission, they backed out, now you're screwed. So financially, it makes a lot of sense to take more than one so that you can keep your pockets filled, as long as you're able to manage the amount of commissions you have coming in. And this doesn't even account for like the ableism as well, because there are a lot of disabled artists who cannot work in long periods of sitting at a desk, hunched over, grabbing their pen, drawing. They'll need to take breaks. For artists like this, it will take them longer than a couple weeks probably to finish your commission. And that's completely fine. I think the big one, if you are commissioning an artist, just make sure you guys are on the same page in terms of communicating expectations. If you have an art piece and you need it turned over in 2 weeks, you'll probably have to pay a rush fee for that. And as long as you and the artist agree on that, that's fine. And like, as long as the artist is working within the confines of their expected turnover time, most artists will be pretty transparent. They'll be like, hey, my turnover window is about 3 weeks for a commission, or hey, my turnover is about 1 month for a commission, because they have other commissions they're working on. That's fine. Just make sure you guys are on the same page, so nobody is left misunderstood. And this one was just a post on Reddit somebody posted to Twitter, but oh my god, it's posted in r/defending AI art, which I need to actually like observe this subreddit because this is funny as hell. And it reads, as somebody who is this bad at drawing, AI is a dream come true. It's like an AI generated comic panel where the person is crying, writing, this is the best I can draw, and it's a stick figure trying to like hit a baseball. And then a bunch of people with shirts that say anti-AI club, they're all angry and they're like, you have no skill, you suck. And then the next frame is a person being really happy with a super highly rendered drawing of a baseball player. And they say, Gemini, create a realistic baseball player, action pose, detailed textures on a beautiful day. And then it's them next to two anti-AI people, the same people who are thinking, this is so good, but we can't admit it. And the person in the middle is really happy. Oh my god, dude, the rage bait, man. Again, this is rage bait, right? They're just saying this to try to piss you off, I swear. But a couple things, right? I can empathize with the frustration of being bad at something, right? Like, it sucks to be bad at things. But the reality is, every single artist who started drawing at some point sucked at it, okay? We've all been there where we drew something, we put pen to paper, pen to tablet, and it looked like ass. And you look at it and you're like, man, I freaking suck. I don't want it to sound like a superiority thing, but maybe it comes off that way. Maybe it is, right? The difference is we put in the time. We put in years and years and years to learn how to draw, to learn technique, to learn anatomy, to learn shading, to learn rendering, all of this to get to where we are today. The person in the comic just didn't do the learning part and wanted to immediately jump to expert. Like, I think what is really interesting also is that there's a level of entitlement I feel that people have towards artwork that they don't have towards other things that are very highly specialized and skilled. When a lot of these like pro AI art people, right? They're like, well, now I can have the same art that you guys have. And like, why are you mad at me for it? And of course, there's frustration when somebody cut up a jillion corners to try to get to where you are. But I think it's interesting because people don't have this level of entitlement towards like sports, for instance, right? If you go watch basketball, you look at LeBron James, nobody is like pissed at LeBron James for being good at basketball. It's just a fact that he's good. And it's a fact that you suck at basketball. It's a fact that I suck at basketball. And there's no level of entitlement of being like, man, I deserve LeBron James's skill, because the answer is, I'm not LeBron. I cannot ball like that, okay? And that's fine. But I think it's always interesting when it comes to art because like the feeling is different. It's like I should have this. I should have this art. I don't want to learn, but I want the accolade that comes with it anyways. It's really cute because in the comments, it's full of artists who are saying things like, hey, here's my example of not quitting even if you suck at art. And they're showing their before and after. Other people showing their before and after. And I think it's also interesting because a person comments, having followed hundreds of artists since the early 2000s, I've only seen one time a professional artist mocked a beginner's skill level, and she received massive backlash for it. It's so cringe to invent situations to play the victim, especially since there's no point here. And that's the other part of this comic, right? Because like they showed their stick figure and the anti-AI people are making fun of them for being a beginner at art. I don't want to say bad because everybody starts somewhere, right? And like, sure, stick figures, this, that, and the third. You know, okay, on a complete side note, you know what I think the absolute fucking irony of this is? They used AI to draw the stick figure. Look at the baseball. Like the baseball isn't even drawn correctly. Like, bro didn't even draw their own mother stick figure. This is why I want to have sympathy towards people like that. I want to be empathetic, but like, come on, you didn't even draw your own goddamn stick figure. Like, you're telling me you can't even do that? But yeah, like in the art community, it's frowned upon to make fun of beginners because we've all been there. Like, you're gonna look like an asshole. Okay, that's the equivalent of making fun of kids. Come on, like you're just a dick. Okay, don't do that. I completely agree that this is a really made up scenario, right? Like, sure, when you post beginner art, sometimes there'll be people that make fun of you, but again, those people suck and they're the exception to the rule. You're learning. That's fine. Learning is encouraged. It just makes me laugh at the end of the day, honestly. I swear to God, nowadays people want to do anything but actually put in effort. And I feel like this is a sentiment every generation has anyways, but so maybe I'm sounding like a boomer here, but like bitching and moaning about the fact that you don't want to learn to get good at doing something. I mean, I guess you're lazy. Just admit you're lazy, bro. Come on. It's not that hard. So at the end of the day, what are your thoughts about all these stories, man? Don't send hate to any parties involved, but these are just some like rage bait posts that I saw. And I was like, dude, I just want to talk about it because it makes me laugh looking at the rage bait, honestly, because like I just feel bad for the people who are doing it. That's on you, bro. That's on you. But don't go around stealing other people's artwork with Gen AI. Not cool. Don't do that. Draw your own stick figures, man. This is sad news. We have a guy who was an artist for Disney, and he went absolutely off of the deep end. This was tweeted out August 22nd by Toon_emu or emo on Twitter. And emo writes, hey, so this guy at Anime NYC just blatantly lied to me about not using Gen AI in his work, then scammed my mom off of several $100s in prints. Disney has been a magical IP for so many people, and then to have these like scammy artists steal and like scam people. So this is the artist in question. His name is James Mulligan. He also goes by the name Jimmy Mulligan. This was his banner at Anime NYC. This is one of his works. Now, don't send hate to any parties involved. Why is this AI, you ask? Well, take a peep at the background real quick. I know this is a canvas, okay, but this looks to be a canvas print. Either that or some bro referenced AI and then painted it directly, like pixel for pixel onto the canvas, which is stupid. The chair is really off in the background here, like super wonky and wobbly. But take a look at this bookshelf, okay? It looks like the bookshelf is bending in and out of the fabric of the universe, okay? That's Anna is sitting in. What is happening? Like these books are melting into the bottom shelf of the bookshelf. Look at these books, more melting books, and then the ladder also is connecting into the bookshelf. Not to mention, again, turbo, like wobbly in and out. This is most definitely AI. If you want to argue that Anna is not AI, right, in the front, the background definitely is. And to seal the deal a little bit more, these are more examples of his work. Pulled this off Reddit because I'm pretty sure this is deleted now. Left is his artwork of Dumbo. This art piece to me looks pretty legitimate, right? The right is his art piece of Rapunzel. Looking a little more suspicious here. Rapunzel, what's happening to the crisscross and detailing on your dress? What is this? What is the knotting? Emu continues. I asked him what his process was like and if he used Gen AI or not. And he said he didn't. But I was looking for AI because it's like an industry witch hunt to ruin people's careers. He told me he used Procreate, the same software as me, and showed me his tablet. He pulled up the layers, which obviously showed he drew the character. But the background was a copy and pasted image on the bottom layer. I then asked him if I could see the time-lapse replay, but he told me he didn't record one. I have made over 700 illustrations using Procreate, so I know for a fact it automatically saves a time-lapse replay. You're telling me you are a professional artist for Disney and you work in Procreate as your primary medium, and you conveniently don't know where to find the time-lapse recording / you don't have it? Do you think Emu is stupid. Emu continues, I told him this and offered to show him how to access them. He then got mad at me and told me to leave. I got into a bad fight with my mom about it after, since he tricked her into thinking his process was all his own, and that he didn't use Gen AI, and that's so sad. He got the mom, guys! Apparently, I'm the second person to bring this up, even though the con just started, since Gen AI is strictly against the rules for vendors. Shout out to Stacy at the help desk for being absolutely lovely. I am so incredibly disappointed that somebody working for such a large and artistically talented company would stoop so low as to blatantly lie to their customers. I was almost gaslit by him into thinking he wasn't using AI. If he would have told me that, quote, I use some Gen AI in designing my backgrounds, but the character art is mine, end quote, then it would have been fine, because that's the truth. But he didn't say that at all and instead blatantly lied to me and my mom. I struggle with severe social anxiety, so this entire interaction left a sour taste in my mouth. I urge Disney Lorcana and Anime NYC and any other people who may have had similar experiences to make some noise about this. So Emo continues, if by some insane miracle he is not lying and is actually not lying about this, then I would love to see a time-lapse sketch or literally any proof that he's not incorporating Gen AI into his work like he says. He's right about one thing, this is a witch hunt. Except in this case, the witches aren't practicing magic. They're lying, scheming, and stealing from the real magic that is human-made art. Okay, hold up, that's a bar right there. I'm sorry for any spelling mistakes or lazy writing in this. I'm not used to making threads and I'm very tired. Shout out to all the lovely people at Anime NYC and to everyone who's helped me out. Emu had added some extra context where they tried looking up James's profile and their profile didn't exist, but then it turns out that James seemed to have blocked Emu on their social media pages. So this is his Instagram. He has 88,000 followers. By the way, don't send hate to him, okay? If you think it's AI generated, don't purchase it. If you scroll his page, he has a lot of Disney works. Another art piece example of Ariel and Rapunzel sitting in the Haunted Mansion ride, more of his works, Dumbo, etc. But what is interesting is he deleted some pieces. So here's another commenter under the original thread by the name Yuan on Twitter or Neo Lucky, and they write, this was so rough. Dude, it's crazy obvious too. You can tell where he uses it versus his own stuff, especially when it's overly rendered and rimlit. The Snow White is dead on just Gen AI. So this is a Snow White piece James or Jimmy posted December 21st, 2024, and this has now been deleted off of their Instagram page. What in the absolute AI atrocity is this? Snow White's costume is very iconic, and you're telling me an artist who has made art for Disney, including Lorcana cards, couldn't get her outfit correct? This is not how the shoulder piece of her dress looks like. Not to mention we have trees melting into more trees in the background, but the hand looks really off relative to the rest of her body. Like what? Why does it look like that? And again, more of the funky hair stuff happening here. The collar on either side doesn't even match up. Like the shape of the collar isn't even correct. This collar has a point at this end here on Snow White's left, but then on Snow White's right side, there's no point. It is a complete even slope into the back of the neck. Yeah, why is it so thin? Like my wrists are weirdly thin, but it doesn't look like that. Like it still looks balanced towards my body, and this is weird. And then we have a Tiana piece. This one is interesting. February 28th. This is Ariel sitting with something, Sasquatch? With like what looks to be the Seattle Tower in the back, but I could be wrong about that. The background is so AI. Like we have trees coming out of other trees. Like, is that a tree? There's like rocks coming out of tree roots back here. And then it's really hard to see, but if I open it in another tab, you might be able to see it here. This is Snow White's hand that's holding the cup, right? If you're holding a teacup or something like that, you have 5 fingers in your hand, but your thumb isn't visible when you're holding a teacup. She has 5 fingers visible just holding the cup, right? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know what's happening here. Maybe I could be wrong and it's somehow the angling. It doesn't look like that. Like I love how Sasquatch is wearing a backpack too. That's an interesting touch. You know, that's design choice. Yeah. And then we have Cinderella and the sci-fi tower in the back. The Cinderella looks a bit suspicious as well. This tower is not standing straight, that's for sure. It's like teetering concerningly. And all the windows are like bleeding into each other. Yeah, and Cinderella is looking interesting. There's some, examples of his artwork to try to solidify to you that this is looking a little bit suspicious, right? A little bit being generous. On top of just selling artwork that has allegedly Gen AI incorporated into it and passing it off as his own, he has achieved the next level of scummery by claiming artwork that isn't his as his own. So we have this tweet by Kendall Hale Art on Twitter, or Kendall Hale, and Kendall writes, late to this party, but the guy is a flat out thief. aside from AI use. He only has 3 card illustrations done for Lorcana, but constantly paints over other artists' cards and their names to take credit for them, then sells it for 300 plus. So this is the side by side. This is his painting, right? Where he painted Rapunzel, or Tangled, right? And signed his name on it over the Lorcana card. And he writes, signed by the artist. Does he not know that, like, the cards credit the artist, okay? On the bottom left of Lorcana cards, the artist is credited, and for this Rapunzel piece, the artist is Aubrey Archer. Here's another one. Kendall adds, nothing says guilty like flat out signing your name over the other artist's credit. This is the Lorcana card Mickey Mouse Enthusiastic Dancer, and here on top of it, he draws Minnie, and he signed his name on it. Guess where he signed his name, guys? The bottom left, right on top of where Lorcana cards directly credit the artist. So he completely blocked it out with his signature. What? And then this is the artist for that card. So this is the card, and the artist is Vaquel Villanueva, the artist for the Mickey Mouse piece. But apparently James Mulligan thinks it's him. Look, if you're gonna be doing this, painting over a card, put your signature somewhere else, you know? Out of all places on the card, you couldn't put it on the side here, couldn't put it next to the mini, whatever. Directly over the artist's name. That is a choice. He must have looked at that and been like, yep, that's even beyond the fact that you're like painting over a card, claiming yourself to be the artist, and then selling it for like a bunch of money. This is intentional. Another commenter, purposely, I guess, trying to be obtuse, says, it's called a custom card alter, and people in many TCGs do this for fans. You guys are slur and shouldn't be speaking about things you know nothing about. And the commenter, RJ Palmer, responds, then why did he sign his name over the artist credit, Danny? That's the thing. It is intentional to put your signature over here. That was a choice. That was a direct choice to do that. Like, you literally also couldn't have put it like a little bit higher. About that wife of his, Emu adds, his wife replied, insulting me, inappropriately citing the argument I had with my mom. It is now attempting to scare me with legal action. Please help me if you can. I am utterly offended and absolutely flabbergasted. I will not let this slide. So the wife, allegedly the wife, Charlotte, by the handle Sherbert Lemon 130, they say the original artwork in question, gone over digitally in Procreate, no AI. Okay, but like, here's the original piece. Why was the background changed? There is no chair here, and there is no wonky bookshelf thing going on back here. And Emu adds, wow, these are so much prettier than the AI versions. Why the heck did he feel the need to ruin them? I completely agree, Emu. I am asking the same question. And the wife, Charlotte, allegedly the wife, right? It could also be somebody impersonating the wife, says, that's totally fine to say. Art is always in the eye of the beholder, and criticism and feedback are always welcome. Incorrect and damaging accusations around AI are not, and we take them super seriously. And Emu says, the image he posted and the image I took myself of the work he had displayed at Anime NYC are obviously completely different images. The left, altered, contains perspective issues, obvious clipping, and countless other obvious indications of AI usage. Look at the side-by-side, okay? Left being the one Emu took a photo of, and right being the original painting. The background looks completely different. Here's the crazy part to me, right? Why not just sell this? If this is the original hand-painted work that was not altered digitally at all by James Mulligan, why not sell this? Like, why did you feel the need to then like alter the background in some way? And the wife continues, well, the alleged wife says, yes, as I've said multiple times, the image on the right is hand-painted original. Image on the left is hand-painted original with digital edits on Procreate, done by hand and not AI. Emu says, those are not the kind of edits one would ever make using Procreate. Thousands of other professional artists, including myself, have commented this and pointed this out in the thread. So Charlotte says, I got your email. Thank you. And then puts Emu's email. And then Emu says, feel free to email me with the time-lapse replays or any evidence that there was no Gen AI involved. If it's a mix-up, I would love to get things cleared up. And commenters are saying, yeah, it's 400% him. The wife could be AI too. Another commenter says, if he really has a lawyer, surely he'd know how to spell tortious interference, which is funny. And then Emu adds, his wife is now threatening me legally. Please contact Disney Lorcana, Anime NYC. A commenter adds, he can't sell Disney stuff anyways. They don't play about copyright. Let's see how much AI art money he has, LMFAO. The thing is, he can draw. Like, he is capable of drawing. He can hand draw. He can paint. He technically is a Disney official art. It, like, depends on how you classify official, but he's made Disney Lorcana cards. He's made like 3 of them though. So not as much as other artists, but he is a Disney Lorcana artist. Has he also used Gen AI in his works? To me, it looks like he has. This is my opinion though. And the opinion of a lot of people on the internet. Sad part is that he can draw and he chose not to. So what Disney Lorcana cards did he draw? According to lorcana.gg, if you look up James C. Mulligan, which is his name, he made 3. He made White Rabbit, Flounder, and Transform Chef. So this is the White Rabbit card. This is Flounder, and then this is Transformed Chef. I don't know if he was originally good. Looking at these, right? Like these cards look pretty legitimate, but I'm just glancing at the photos, the images, right? That's why it's always like a big what the F, because okay, so you have hands, you clearly can draw, and you can draw well, and you just chose to not do any of that. Like, why did you make the final choice? Blocked out their names and claimed that he was the artist, you know, signed by the artist, da 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 da. The thing is, you could make the argument, oh, this does happen in the TCG community, the trading card community, where people will paint on cards and then sell it. I feel like you just have to know, as an artist who has made art for trading cards, right? For Lorcana, that your marketing is a bit deceptive, being like signed by the artist, and then you also blocked out the artist name, and then you have another card where you directly signed over the artist name to block it. Like, the art was not over the artist name. The artist name is bottom left, the artwork was in the bottom right, but they chose to put their signature directly on top of the name. Like, you know, that on top of the AI stuff is just bombastic side eye to you. Here is somebody by the name of Nicholas Cole on Twitter who goes by From Happy Rock. They are a Lorcana artist too. They have made plenty of Lorcana cards. Many Lorcana cards, in fact. I just thought it was funny because he was just like retweeting everything that Emo was posting. Like, everything about this James guy, he was retweeting. Forgot to cover this. This was another post made by Emo where Emo writes, so he deleted this very blatant AI post after I commented on it saying it was very blatantly AI and that he blocked me. And then found my private account and blocked me too. So sorry, this is the full Cinderella image. And if you look at the full image, it is an absolute what the F is happening. Yeah. Nicholas quote retweeted another post by RJ Palmer, where RJ writes, this guy is also at DragonCon selling AI images. Personally saw him making a $500 sale. He isn't just scamming, he's thriving while scamming. Truly vile work. And then here was a post written by another user, Jesu Medina, who writes, James Mulligan is still at it, huh? He used to steal characters from artists and use them for NFTs. Had to block him back in 2021. That's an allegation. But any involvement in NFTs always gives me like a bombastic side eye, especially if you're an artist again, because it's like, oh no, you know. A lot of my information comes from this YouTuber by the name of Inkwell, who also has a video about DragonCon AI artists. He talks about both Oriana, the artist that has the like graffiti monopoly stuff that we just talked about, and then also James C. Mulligan. So highly recommend you check out his video. I will have it linked down below if you're watching on YouTube. It gets so much worse, guys. It somehow gets much worse than just AI. We have this. I do not like this. I accidentally double clicked at some point. This was posted August 21st. He posted this only like 2 weeks ago. Happy 83rd anniversary to the classic Walt Disney animated film Bambi, okay? His little Bambi drawing, he signed it, all fine and dandy and all this good stuff, right? And look at this. And by the way, for context, this is not a video where like it's his painting process and he toggles off the artwork to show that he painted the background. Okay, for extra context. This is, according to Pinterest, clip art of Bambi and Thumper. You can see on the hoof of Bambi, there's a DWW watermark on it that James traced. On top of that, and again, this was something that was sent to Inkwell, but the person writes, I don't think he painted the background. Copy and pasted, actually, with a slight edit in saturation. That's right, because the background wasn't made by him, actually. The background is drawn by a man named Tyrus Wong, who is an illustrator for Disney and the lead production illustrator on Bambi. It's this dude, the absolute GOAT himself, who worked on so many films. You can see all the names of the films that he's worked on here. And here is a post on Twitter by somebody by the name of Animated Antic in 2020, where they're showing screen grabs of backgrounds of Bambi and crediting Tyrus Wong as the artist. Oh, wow. Isn't this the exact same background as the one in James Mulligan's original artwork that he fucking signed, okay? It is trace clip art, and the background is literally stolen from Tyrus Wong, the guy who actually worked on Bambi, the legitimate artist. So there's more. We have more examples of James painting over Lorcana cards. And again, people have said, oh, and you know, in trading card games, etc., you know, it's not uncommon for people to paint over cards. It happens. People paint over Magic cards, Pokemon cards, etc. That's true. Why does James always basically paint over the artist's signature and then also signs the artwork himself? You know, like, there's like a signature here. He's painting over it. Another example where you can see he painted over the cards. And to give him credit, there are a couple where he didn't paint over the artist's credit, which is in the bottom left. But he signed like every single one of these cards, right? Mulligan, 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 Mulligan. A thread on Facebook, Brittany writes, these are so cool. Got the Scar one. He was around here for Comic Con. That was the first one you saw. Another commenter says, looks like Scar's trying to seduce us. And Eduardo Huerta says, hey, I made that card. The art director for this card was Edgar Patson. James didn't have anything to do with it. So again, James is painting over the card. So again, look, the point that I'm trying to make again is that it's not uncommon for people to paint over cards. And you can search here, painting Lorcana cards. It's probably easier to search Pokemon, honestly, because it just happens way more, because Lorcana isn't as popular of a game. As you can see, people paint over Pokemon cards, right? They do that. You don't often see them like sign it afterwards and then claim they are the artist, right? Like we can scroll down all the searches for painted over Pokemon cards. People aren't signing it, selling it, and claiming that they're the original artist. That is where it gets disingenuous. And that is exactly what James is doing. Here is an individual. I just redacted their name because I don't know if they're like comfortable with their name being shown. They said, I reached out to Ben Penrod, the showrunner of Nerd Street Conventions and Twin Cities Con, just told me that James C. Mulligan has been banned from their events for years due to other reasons. I'm seriously hoping he tells me why. The same individual, and this shows the proof of this, where Ben says, thanks for reaching out, but he's been banned from our events for unrelated reasons for years. So they ask, oh, is it possible to know why? Ben says, I'd rather not. But if any other promoters want to ask me, we can talk about it. He's not really a good person. It's a shame because his art hits home for a lot of people, and I've got some of his originals, and he's really good. He'd be perfectly successful based on the quality of his work alone. So this is DisneyFineArt.com. 2020, where you can see it says, please make sure your artists respect theme park employees during the COVID pandemic. We are scared and Jimmy Mulligan doesn't care. Especially as a representative of Disney, he should be following the rules in Orlando theme parks. And there is a photo attached as well. I don't know the full context of this photo, but from my understanding, he's not wearing the mask properly because it should cover your mouth and all of your nose. And you can see a very, very prominent chunk of his nose isn't covered. But it could be wrong, right? In more communications in the emails, Disney Fine Art says, we couldn't agree more. Everyone should be afraid of this guy's actions and reckless behavior. Please know that we haven't worked with Jimmy since 2018 and have zero connection with him. His works have been deleted from our site, editions closed out since 2018, and we have zero to do with him. He doesn't have any agreement with Disney that we know of, and certainly anything related to our license, Disney Fine Art, and our company. I suggest you send your email and concerns to the park. We certainly will as well. Another email, I know other people saw him post some anti-mask sentiment during COVID. I had him blocked by then. Previously in person, once he had pinched me so hard, I got a bruise over something very stupid. I tried to tolerate him. Because redacted. Sadly, he is a bad news kind of human. Remember how we hinted at the fact that James has a connection to NFTs and crypto? There is this article, artistcloseup.com, with a blog interview February 22nd. This, I believe, was in 2022. An interview with James C. Mulligan, okay? They're highlighting his long career with the Walt Disney Company, yabba, 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 we go down here. There's just some elements of this that I want to highlight. So here it says, you have come to be known as a top artist in the NFT space, blah, 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 blah. Here James cites, he's really excited about the NFT space. They're in the beginning of this thing, and it's forced him to do his homework and polish up skills. So there's more mention of NFTs, and he highlights here, I'm an early crypto investor, and I've always known that the traditional way of handling currency, blah, 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 would devalue currency. I see crypto as the people's money, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. So we've got his love for crypto, and then wait, I thought this was funny. The interviewer asked, what is an artist's role in society, and how do you see that evolving? James says, I've heard people say an artist's job is to tell the truth. I disagree. I think an artist's job is to lie to us in a way that we want to be lied to. We want to believe Mary Poppins can fly. We want to believe that Monet's lily pads really had that movement and color. I hope I lie to the world beautifully with my art. I just think it's funny that he has this take. I hope I lie to the world beautifully with my art, because the foreshadowing with this is wild, knowing that he's gonna then incorporate AI into his work. Allegedly. I think he did. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit. And then there's some more information that came out, some more suspicious elements in his works. So let's go take a look at all of that before we get into the statement that he made, because James made a statement. All right, first one. This is DuckTales. It is a comic that James allegedly made. That's what it looks like. That is for sale. He posted this 43 weeks ago on his Instagram, November 4th, 2024. And it's for sale at captaincomics.com. Okay, again, the image is really hard to see. It's like really low res, so it's always difficult to be like, oh, this is AI, this isn't, when the image is quite low res. But this to me has some suspicious elements, okay? This is Scrooge McDuck, okay? Another example of his artwork, Scrooge McDuck. This is from the wiki. You know, like the way Scrooge McDuck is drawn, his feet are kind of like that. If he's wearing like a booty or something like that. It kind of straps on his foot like that. Here's another example. If he has a booty, it kind of straps on his foot. Doesn't, you don't have that kind of like strappage going on at his ankles. This is his foot. He's not wearing one of those like boots that you saw in the other image. He's not. So why is there this like cuffing happening on his feet when he's not wearing that shoe cover? That's weird. Also, secondly, look at the fingers. The finger thickness is a bit off. Again, sometimes it's genuine human error. Even if you are an experienced artist, we all make mistakes. Chill. What happened here? What is going on here? Shouldn't all your fingers, if they're curled, look, I don't know, legit? Okay, that's so hard to do this with a mouse. Shouldn't it look like legitimate with the pinky being the smallest because it's the smallest finger? Why is there like a line here and then there's also a really faint line here? There's like one extra creasing going on here in the finger. Like an experienced artist wouldn't make this mistake. You would be able to do that. Also, what's wrong with his glasses? Aren't bro's glasses supposed to be like this? It's literally circle, other circle. And the belting is just odd because like his belt looks like this, but it's not done in a way that makes it look right properly 3D. Maybe there's like a different Scrooge outfit I'm not familiar with, but like this is the one outfit where he has a buckle, but it doesn't look like that. And in most of what looks like Scrooge McDuck's outfits, and I could be wrong, right? Because I'm not familiar with Scrooge McDuck to that level. He doesn't really have a buckle on his belt. There's only that one example where he does. This is his typical outfit. Again, with foot covers that he's not featured with. And again, take a look at the glasses. The nose bridge is there. And then again, not to mention the fact that it looks like he's wearing pants, but he's not. Do we even need to talk about the background? Is this a tree? Is this a palm tree? What is happening with this tree? I too am quite convinced that AI had some role in this artwork production because this looks so off. Here we have more examples of suspicious work. These are posted to his Facebook page, right? This is supposed to be his artwork in quotes. Why do they all look very, very different? And I'm not saying that people can't have different art styles because you most definitely can, but it's just odd to see somebody with such like a defined level of illustration have such varying styles like this. And then secondly, the bell work looks most definitely AI. There's like random hair strands stuck to her neck, which is a choice to make if you drew this yourself. A little bit hard to tell for some other pieces because the quality is a little bit low for the screenshot, so it's a bit harder to tell, but it's just interesting. We also have this, October 3rd, 2024, this weekend, LA Comic Con. We have Anna from Frozen. The fingers are looking mad wonky. Maybe it's human error. Everyone makes mistakes in drawing hands. It's hard. Her ring and pinky finger are significantly shorter than these other two fingers. So it's interesting. We also have more potential examples of tracing. Here we have this. Let me back this up. Oh, wow. What is this? Are these perhaps one-to-one overlays? Oh, what's this? Directly traced over the renders? And then James C. Mulligan 8 hours ago came out with a statement posted to his Facebook page. James C. Mulligan. Hi, all. It looks like I became very famous pretty much overnight. Yippee. Get my word yippee out of your mouth, okay? Don't taint the word yippee like that. Yippee is for all of us that don't trace art and claim it as our own. Due to certain unfounded, quote, your art is AI, end quote, accusations that seemingly came out of nowhere from a young person that attended an anime show I was at. That grew legs. I've been trying to lay low, but I figured it's about time this needed to be addressed. Out of respect for all my clients and friends that have supported me through the decades, long before AI was ever a word on the scene. As the artist in question, I will state definitively that multiple statements made are patently and provably false. First and foremost, that AI was used to create my multiple Lorcana cards. Not remotely true. Wait. Okay, let's just break this down. People were accusing you of selling AI at DragonCon. She was sitting with a really warped bookshelf in the back, right? That piece, amongst a lot of other pieces. Nor have I ever been blacklisted from working with Disney. So those screenshots we saw where Disney Fine Art said they haven't worked with you since 2018 were false. The employee that stated these things deleted their tweet and took their account private almost immediately after making these false statements. I've been awaiting communication from the team at Ravensburger to be given permission to publicly share the layered hand-drawn files of my Lorcana cards, as unfortunately it would be in violation of certain agreements to do so without explicit permissions. Talk about trying to deflect the conversation without talking about trying to deflect the conversation. Again, he's like arguing for a point that nobody accused him of. So my hands are tied. All I can say is I've worked in some capacity with Disney for decades, and my years of work will stand up to these accusations. Though, not strangely, an AI detector which came back showing one of my D23 releases from 2014 was 99.9% AI. A rather humorous but absurd discovery. I understand completely the hatred for artists using Gen AI and passing it along as their hand-painted creative work. AI has its uses, but AI, in my estimation, ultimately will be an incredibly destructive force for society and humanity as a whole. I did not use it, nor have I received any communication from my Ravensburger/Lorcana team accusing me of such. This came from one person speaking on behalf of Lorcana, issuing a tweet, again, that was deleted very quickly, with no backup or even naming the art director they spoke to. To conclude, I have kept on the down low to protect my family, while attempting to ignore countless threats against myself and my family. Just inserting real quick, this is BS if you are laying low to protect your family, because your wife went on Twitter and was harassing the person who made the call out, like grabbing their email, threatening legal action to that person. So, I mean, I don't fully believe this if your wife is out there running around yapping on Twitter like this, but I don't know, right? He is not his wife, so he can't speak for her, but don't think that statement holds merit because of that. But I felt if I didn't say anything, I was gonna burst. If anyone would care to reach out to me with questions, I'm happy to answer anything privately. As to do so publicly at the moment is something I've been advised against. My Instagram is open, my Facebook DMs are open. I welcome professional and thoughtful communication. Looking forward to the moment these accusations can be easily dispelled. Thank you, Jimmy. And by the way, just to seal the deal on this one, this is a post from James's Facebook page, October 10th, 2024. AI's vision of Florida, where we have a three-winged bird, another three-winged bird, and water. Florida is like flooded, or there's a massive river running through Florida with people driving on it, but it looks like the cars are absorbing the water. You've used AI, no? Complete side thing is like, I do not fault you if you used AI and didn't know it was bad, like Gen AI. And then once you found out it was bad, then you're like, oh shit, okay, I'm not gonna touch it anymore, my bad. You know, like, you don't know what you don't know. But then here he blatantly states, I did not use it. And again, he is completely ignoring the points people are making intentionally. No one is asking if you used AI in the Lorcana cards, okay? One, did you use Gen AI in the pieces that you are selling? Because in a lot of your works that I've looked at, it looks suspicious. And other people think so as well. Like even the DuckTales cover, because what is happening with the feet? By the way, on a complete also side note, there's this like scrunching going on the feet, but why are there like two scrunches on this foot and only one on the other? And you can't argue, oh, it's the angle of the foot because like it's not drawn that way. And this foot is also bigger than this foot, and it's also not perspective. It is literally just bigger. So either you just like, I don't know, your skills got a little rusty, which is chill, happens to the best of us, right? Or you've used AI at some point in your process, not only in this duck piece, right? But in the original call out, which let me show you, this piece, the background, what is happening with this bookshelf? It is literally melting into the background. What about this piece, the Cinderella, that has this random lion shrimp spewing a ray of water out of the bottom left tooth behind her, and the melting skyscrapers in the background? You know, what about this one? Let me add, by the way, that the wife Charlotte, if this is the wife on Twitter, was like, oh, but here's the original painting of the Anna, da 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 da. Yeah, the original painting looks chill and all. What happened to the background? Because why did you change it? You hated the background so much, you went to Gen AI and then changed it and then slapped your original Anna drawing on top. And then also, what about you drawing over other people's Lorcana cards? And then claim and signing it and claiming you're the original artist and then selling it for profit, okay? It is that all together that makes it sus, right? If you painted it for yourself and you hung it on your wall yourself, no one's gonna question it. If you painted on it and then you gave credit to the original artist and you were like, oh, you know, I painted on it, but the original artist is so-and-so, no one would really bat an eye either. It's the fact that you did all of that and then you sold it and claimed you're the original artist, that's where it gets weird. Why'd you do that, bro? Just asking. And then also, why did you get kicked out of those events? Because you are blacklisted from events. People have confirmed it. You are also, according to Disney Fine Arts, blacklisted. So that's odd. Right? You can't really make the argument like, oh, like one convention organizer just hates me for no reason and I got blacklisted, but I'm the victim, because you're blacklisted from multiple places. So there's no way all of them have this weird vendetta against you. You must have done something wrong. You know what they say? Like, if it smells like shit everywhere you go, you should probably check under your shoe. This is exactly the point. What about the tracing? By the way, are we also gonna conveniently ignore the fact that you traced Bambi clip art and literally took Tyrus Wong's background art, stuck it in your piece, and then signed over as if you made the whole thing yourself? What about that? There's a lot of stuff that hasn't been addressed here, sir. There's a thread in r/Lorcana posted by Lunarian Angel, writing, update. An employee of the team behind Lorcana confirmed with their creative directors. They confirmed James C. Mulligan has used AI in his card art. Disney will not work with him again and will most likely take legal action after the events of this week. So these are screenshots of the tweet. The user is now private. Don't send hate to them. Their name is Fee Green and the handle is the Green Nymph. So Fee says, I actually work for the company that makes Disney Lorcana, so I will be bringing this up with my creative directors. We have a hard policy of no AI art in our games, and they will be able to assess further. However, it's very common people jump to these conclusions a lot. And this is about James C. Mulligan again. So they write, update. So I did check with my director and it looks his work is indeed AI. Thankfully, he hasn't worked with us on many sets after Disney notified us of this issue. Disney also won't work with him anymore either, and I'm sure will possibly get their legal involved. And this was posted September 2nd. So there is this article by MSN.com written by Spencer Bakuli a day ago titled Disney Blacklists artist James C. Mulligan after confirming he used AI for Disney Lorcana card art. So MSN writes, after public outcry prompted a behind-the-scenes investigation, Disney reportedly confirmed that Lorcana artist James C. Mulligan had been using their name to sell AI-generated works and subsequently blacklisted him for doing so. This is one of his Lorcana pieces, The Flounder, another one of the pieces that he's made. According to the MSN article, they don't have a source they link back to, like an official Disney statement or anything like that. It kind of looks like the only reference so far that online you can really see about AI in his Lorcana cards is that Twitter user who states they work for the company that makes Lorcana and that the director has confirmed it. So we kind of just have like one tweet. But allegedly, according to this MSN article, James C. Mulligan is literally blacklisted for using the Disney name to sell generated works. It didn't mention the Lorcana cards. Again, James, what about all the other stuff, you know? And finally, going back into his statement, it's just very interesting. I'm not going to show the comments, but the comments are full of people who are huge stans of him, who are like, yeah, like I've seen your work, I've seen your process, you're legit, man. The thing is, at the end of the day, no one is disputing the fact that James has hands, okay? James has hands. He can draw. He can draw well. He's been drawing for and painting for a very long time. It can also be true, allegedly, that you can have the capabilities to draw and paint well and just choose not to and generate stuff to either cut corners, be lazy, or because you have some massive imposter syndrome or something like that and you think AI is better than your actual hand painted work. I don't know. I don't know why he would do it if allegedly he did do it, right? This is again my opinion, but just because you can paint well in the past doesn't mean you didn't later resort to using AI in the future, which is the current state that we're in when we're looking at his works. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think he used AI? Do you think he didn't? He most definitely traced because we have that proof, and he most definitely inserted background art that wasn't his into his artworks because we have very, very, very damning evidence of that. And according to those emails, he also has been blacklisted from events, so all of that seems to be true. Yeah, it is messy, bro. This whole James C. Mulligan rabbit hole is a doozy. What are your thoughts about this entire situation? And again, big shout out to Inkwell for a lot of this information. They will be linked down below. Please go check them out because their videos are super fun. So if you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators like emotes overlays. Have a coffee with free resources like a free sponsorship guide if you want to make some money. And I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. EST. Hope to catch you guys there on my streams or in another video.